Welcome back into the Sports Source. This segment brought to you by Games and Things, foosball, table tennis, dartboards, classic stand-up arcade games. Those things are cool. Pool tables, air hockey, they've got it all. In terms of being the ultimate man cave store, there's a reason they have that moniker. It's because it's true. They can turn your home into a real entertainment center. If you don't believe me, just go check out their showroom. It itself is an entertainment center. OurGameRoom.com to learn more, but I would suggest you go to the corner of Lovell Road and Kingston Pike in West Knoxville and visit Scott and Lisa Mellon at Games and Things. All right, Mark, we've talked off air about all the ways NIL can make life tougher on coaches, but at the same time, you were a player. I'm sure you would have liked to have had $1 or $2 coming in your way. Your thoughts? You've been listening to us run our mouths. You're more into it, or you've been more into it than we have. Your thoughts on NIL, both from a player's perspective, a coach's perspective?
From a player's perspective, I would say I love it. I think it's all that money that's being made out there, and if you're the one out there performing on the court or on the field, you should be able to get your market value that can come to you. So from a player's standpoint, I love it. From a coach's perspective, I still have some love for it because of a player, but then having to navigate all of that in recruiting, and then the recruiting of your current players, which then leads to retention. It's a mess. I mean, I know a lot of NFL coaches, college coaches that are thinking about getting into the NFL even more so today than ever because of dealing with the NIL. It is a big business that now has trickled down to the players who can have even more control over their day-to-day schedule and their demand, all that stuff. So from a coach's perspective, I don't like it. The other perspective, I mean, I have our company has an NIL deal with Fulkerson. I think from a company's perspective, it can be really good. I mean, I think if you can pay a player that maybe his family needs some money, or as a good representation of the university, and you feel like they can also represent you in the community, it can be a good thing if it's utilized correctly. So I like it in many instances, but what it's done with the transfer portal and the dynamics of a coach having to manage a locker room makes it to where it's becoming more and more of a mess.
Does it I don't think there's any question. It was a bad question because it's obvious it does. Does it destabilize college sports? Yeah, it destabilizes it. I think it'll still go on, as you mentioned, but I don't know if it goes on in the same way it's always gone on before and the way people know it. I guess my question is, does the good outweigh the bad? And I'm not talking about down the road. I'm talking about right now. I wonder right now if the bad isn't outweighing the good. I like the idea of the players getting money. I get that. But just such upheaval. And as we've said off air, and I can't remember we've said so much if you said this on air or not, but a lot of these deals are getting promised. How many of them are going to come through? So if they don't come through, then it's not even money for the players. It's just leading to people transferring all over the place and maybe getting misled. I wonder if right now, at least until they figure something out, if this isn't a net negative in the short run before it becomes a net positive because somebody figures out, oh, we'll put the blocks like this and we'll be okay. Do you think it's a net negative or a net positive?
I think it's a net negative currently because of the chaos that it's encountered. I think the other thing that the players are missing out is the legacy that you create in a community like Knoxville, because if you're here for 3-4 years and you become a really good player, or an okay player as a sophomore, a good player as a junior, and a really good player as a senior, this community embraces you, and you have a long-lasting career in whatever industry that you want to be in, that the kids are going to lose out on by bouncing around and chasing a $25,000 check that they spend on, Nikes or Jordans or doing whatever a lot of kids did, and I did the same thing.
Right.
That they miss out on that long term. So I think right now it's a net negative.
Yeah, I'd say it's a net negative. I think the thing that hurts right now in the short term is you're trading exploitation for manipulation in a lot of senses, and you're getting kids getting really bad advice in a lot of senses. And I think there's a ton of value in that. The thing that hurts me to watch is the mid-level kid, or even like we've seen a couple starting Power 5 quarterbacks jump in the transfer portal. What do you think is going to happen on the other side? Like you're going to try to learn a new system, go to a coaching staff that you don't have capital with, that doesn't know you. Like that, where you're harming your legacy, your career, and your life by getting some bad advice. For a lot of kids, the portal, you can find better things and better situations on the other side.
The high school quarterback at Texas skip his senior year to
Yeah.
go to Ohio
When you were
State.
I have not heard a more universally panned decision than that one from everyone.
You
It's
had
a
a
bad
kid.
decision.
You had a kid in Kentucky who was one of the top prospects, maybe the top prospect in the state of Kentucky, who pulled out in the middle of his team's football season as a senior to sign with Rutgers because NIL deal took care of him, and so Rutgers got this top recruit. So there are kids. You know, I've heard people say, "Well, this is life-changing money." Well, granted, $25,000 in one lump sum can be life-changing money, but when you're 19, 21, 22.
Yeah.
I don't know that it changes in the right way. In the grand scheme of things, when you're 45, looking back at all the years when you made 25,000 or 50,000 or 150,000, that 25,000 gets smaller and smaller and smaller. Did you make a bad decision based off what, not now, but overall in the span of your life, is a really small drop in the bucket?
I think it'll be interesting. Like you hear all the horror stories from pro sports from like the 80s and 90s, especially kids coming out of high school that just like had no sense of money,
Blew their
had no
money,
sense of
yeah.
what to do. And you know what happened? People learned. They got a lot smarter. They figured out, oh, we got to do this. We got to avoid these mistakes. We got to avoid these mistakes. I hope with NIL, with the transfer portal, not specifically financially, but like you're saying, in the portal and all these decisions where you're getting bad advice, that you can learn from that over time and have a college sports that makes some sense. You're still going to have a lot of movement, but that is equitable for everyone and makes a lot of sense and isn't driving people out of the sport.
Vince, Chuck, hold your tongues. We'll get you on the next side. We're going to continue this discussion next. Come on back on the Sports Source.